I gather that men in the door, I hear that. No, and the station I also I gather.
One floor up. One floor up. Fellas. We're in a shot. Move back. Move back. This way. Back.
Beautiful Saturday.
Yes,
We have 5 minutes.
Senator McCarthy kept saying there are Who has the flashing light, please? Come out here. Come out here with it. Come on up. Come on here.
You don't ever have.
We're going here in a few moments.
Because of the late time, we put out the question in advance for AM's release. That's all right. You're going to use the question?
3 minutes. 3.
You already heard that.
Mary's great. Now, for me,
Sorry, fellas.
Yeah.
That we're going to just, yesterday. You know, he was locked up.
Did you feel we should go on? Do you think you did all right? Yes, I think I did.
That commentator, give them 2 or 3 days run at it, and I'll see whether they're right or not.
You had a difficult time finding differences with Senator Kennedy. Did you feel that way
I
yourself?
thought there was more difference.
You satisfied with
I thought he was a little bit more concerned not to have differences than I was.
Do you think that Ronald Reagan's statement that he is being a little conservative in California is a correct statement after today's debate?
Well, he was 1 or 2 of his programs, which weren't going to cost any money. Sounded like conservative programs, all right.
Thank you, Senator.
Oh, in California.
Outside.
What do you really think? You do well here. You think you'll take on this policy? You tell me where you want to start. All right, we'll do all right.
Oh, this is Senator Kennedy coming out to him.
in 68! Bobby will have to wait! G in 68! Bobby will have to wait! G in 68! Bobby will have to wait!
Congressman Burton and distinguished public officials, I'm delighted to be here, and I'm very pleased you asked me for lunch and then didn't give me enough time to eat. Is that the way the Italians treat you? Their Irish guests? No. What, am I going to take my lunch back with a bag or something?
Lasagna in a bag.
Lasagna in a bag, he says. They sit down and say you're going to have a marvelous lunch, and I see everybody having roast beef, and then they say, do you want to speak right away because you have to leave? That's what's going to happen if Italian power takes over. That's what. I was just listening to the names for where are all the Irish gone? But I cheer all of you. I congratulate you. As I said the other night, it seems to me that, well, as far as the mayor's concerned, I went to the restaurant named after him yesterday. I got close to him anyway. Aliotto's the other day for lunch. But I congratulate you on the contributions that you made to this community, and really the contributions that have been made all across the country. The Americans of Italian extraction. I think that what you've done, I know in the city of New York and the city that I left, the city of Boston, the awareness that had grown in the campaign. I haven't talked about him at all during the course of this campaign. I've talked about what I think needs to be done myself. But what I would, we went on a debate Saturday night, and we talked about what we thought needed to be done, and it seems to me, I have great admiration for many of the things that he has done, but it seems to me that if we're both there together, the time to say something against somebody is while he's there facing you face to face, not when you're 500 miles away and you can't respond to it. I don't think that that's asking for too much. I was there. He talked a long period of time like that he wanted to get me in a room with him. He got me in a room with me, and he was very nice, I thought. but what I can't accept is the idea that to wait until I've gone again and then to proceed to attack me. When it should have been done is while I was there, and to say, this is what's wrong with your position. This is why I disagree with it. And say it to me as he looked me in the eye. I haven't said anything against him, and I don't intend to during the course of this campaign, except when my record was distorted as it was 2 days ago in a newspaper ad. And after it had been distorted in Oregon, I felt that I should try to straighten some of those things out. But I also feel very strongly that as we went through this discussion and we talked to one another, that would have been far better for him to do it then than to wait until we were 200 or 300 miles away and then to attack me. But I'm cheerful and happy anyway. But I also think if, as I said, that in dealing with these problems, they're not easy. The solutions are not easy. It's that we'll have nothing but the same kind of divisions that exist in this country, that has existed in this country for the last 2 or 3 years. When a high administration official says, as he did a few months ago, that we can expect summer after summer of violence, I don't think that's acceptable in the United States. We can't have in this country violence and lawlessness and rioting as a way of dealing with our problems. That can't be. If the situation arose and the President Johnson decided to run, that he'd step aside and let him run. So either you're a candidate for the presidency of the United States or you're not. You go around and get delegates and try to gain support, and you enter primaries on the basis of your own record and what you want to do for the future. And then to say, well, if somebody else steps into the race, I'm going to automatically step aside and all my delegates are going to go to that individual. How can we have that in the United States of America? We're either choosing between Vice President Humphrey and myself and Senator McCarthy, or we're not. But to suddenly announce that if President Johnson, after he said that he's not going to be a candidate, that he doesn't expect to run, that if he changes his mind, that the Vice President's going to suddenly step out of the race. That I don't understand in political life. You either are a candidate or you are not a candidate. But you don't go around and get delegates and ask for support all across the United States and then announce in the middle of the campaign that I might step aside and step out if somebody else comes in. And also, I think it makes it quite clear that what we're going to have is just a if there was ever any question about it, just a continuation of the policies that we've had over the period of the last several years. Continuation of the policies of permitting the violence to go on, permitting the injustices to take place so that nobody is satisfied, continuing the divisions that exist within our country, which cannot go on, which we can't accept in the United States, whether it's the divisions between races, the divisions between age groups, or divisions on the war in Vietnam, continuing the same policy in Vietnam. If you think back 6 months ago, we were talking about whether we were going to extend the bombing around Hanoi. Now all the paper talks about is how much of Saigon we're going to bomb and how many people we're going to kill in Saigon. We wouldn't bomb certain areas of Hanoi because we were fearful of killing so many civilians. The fact is that our bombing in Saigon has killed many more civilians than we ever considered killing in Hanoi. That is how the war has changed. And in the last analysis, as I said in 1965, we can help them, and I'm willing to help them. I'm against unilaterally withdrawing from South Vietnam. We can assist them, we can aid them, we can help them. But in the last analysis, this is the war and the conflict of the South Vietnamese. They have to have the will and the courage to win it themselves. We can go in and help them, but they have to carry the major burden of that conflict, not American soldiers. I want to follow a course where it's the one of warmth and joy and pleasure, or whether they want to face the problems and act on them. I would hope that the American people want to face the problems and act on them. That's what I want to do, and that's what
Hey, Bobby!
Thank you very much. I can't put it on because I have something in the other hand. Well, I'd love to put it on, but I just can't because I got both my hands up. Now, don't you think I want to put it on the quiet of my own room and make sure that it fits? What if it's too big?
Go to your home.
I think that we can do better in the United States. And I think we can start to work together and replace the hatred and the distrust with some compassion and understanding. That's what I think that is required in this country. And that we return the control of government, and that we can turn the control of our society to the people themselves. So that I mentioned a number of programs. I'd also make block grants to communities and let the people themselves decide and determine how the money should be spent and the way it should be spent. Ladies and gentlemen, George Bernard Shaw once wrote, "Some people see things as they are and say, why? I dream things that never were and say, why not?" And that's what I think And it's a great effort not on behalf of the Democratic Party, it's a great effort on behalf of the United States, on behalf of our own people, on behalf of mankind all around the globe and the next generation. And I would hope now that the California primary is finished, now that these primaries are over, that we could now concentrate on having a dialogue or a debate, I hope, between the Vice President and perhaps myself on what direction we want to go in the United States. what we're going to do in the rural areas of our country, what we're going to do for those who still suffer within the United States from hunger, what we're going to do around the rest of the globe, and whether we're going to continue the policies that have been so unsuccessful in Vietnam of American troops and American Marines carrying the major burden of that conflict. I do not want to, and I think we should move in a different direction. So
No, I really couldn't.
Did he appear to be conscious?
He what?
He didn't appear to be conscious. Now, he might have been.
He was conscious and
not.
coherent. I gave him a pair of rosary beads, which are from Ireland, I told him, and he looked straight up, and I was wondering what this meant. I got a little frightened to see him looking straight up, but he looked at me. I said, the act of contrition, I'm a Roman Catholic. A Roman Catholic is trained to do this in the case of any serious accident. I said to the president, the act of contrition, slowly and audibly, and he heard it. I'm sure of it. He was breathing. He's alive. Please God. And I said to him, Mary, Queen of Peace, pray for us. And with that, he took my hand and the rosary beads and tightened.
Where was this? At what stage? What's your name?
This was right after he was shot. I heard a balloon pop, and I said to some woman, I said, what a terrible thing to have around here. These sounds, I said, it's not good for another Kennedy. And the woman said, don't be silly. And that's when I realized it wasn't a balloon.
Was he conscious when you left him?
He was conscious. I was pushed away from him. I didn't need to do any thinking about his consciousness. I did what I believe I could have done. He was wounded. The blood came from his hand and from his ear. I believe he was shot in the rear of the neck.
Who was shot? Was there a woman shot?
There was someone else shot. I did not look at the person shot because I looked to see Senator Kennedy.
What did the person look like? Was it a man or woman who shot him?
I really cannot tell you. I didn't notice. I was looking for the senator. I'm a Catholic.
Do you know how many people were shot?
Mori, I guess, but I wanted to get.
How many people were shot?
I don't think more than 2 were shot. I don't know about the one who did the shooting. Although I'm up on some bins, some towel bins.
It was a he, right?
I saw curly hair, yes, and it was a male.
How about the woman?
I don't know about
Hair, black hair.
Hey, I just did what I.
Back up, we got a mic, loudspeaker.
How many lights are on, Matty?
I have a very short announcement to make. The doctors now say that the surgery will take another hour or perhaps 2. But Senator Kennedy's life signs remain good: respiration, heart, pulse, blood pressure. And that's all they say. So the surgery, he's in surgery. Mrs. Kennedy is with him. Senator Ted Kennedy has arrived at the hospital. And the doctors now say that the surgery will last another hour and perhaps 2. Thank you.
Nothing beyond what I said before. Nothing beyond what I said before. And afterwards telling the questions and the hospital.
Okay, let's go back.
You got the keys? No, I gave them to you to...
Okay. That's all right. Can you use the car, please? Could you use it?
Representatives of the other two networks here.
Louder.
Could I see them all? It's nothing to do with the senator.
Could we have an NBC and a CBS representative just on technical problems for a moment?
Hey, can you move your stun gun over?
We can't hear you. What'd you say? An NBC and a CBS representative
Got an
just for
NBC
technical
man right
problems
here.
there. It has nothing to do with the senator's condition. Somebody,
CBS representative.
could you come up and talk?
We've got a nice press room here. It's large. It's got chairs, telephone, it's got a blackboard, it's got a microphone.
Get those lights out. He's not going to be out for quite some time. You've got at least an hour.
Get set for him?
Yes.
You're going to have a statement, Phil.
Shortly, very shortly.
This is separate from his appearing in an hour?
Yes.
Yeah, where will your statement be?
I'll give you a statement down in the press room.
In the press room?
In the press room.
There is no more press room. Will that be a press conference, sir?
Down in Palo F, is that all closed up? Yeah. Okay, well, why don't we get down the hall away from here somewhere, and I'll give you a statement in about 15 or 20 minutes down there. All
Will
right?
the senator be available for questions?
No, he won't.
Roll it. Roll it. Roll it, Ken. You're on.
Senator McCarthy is coming out from his suite at this time.
I have a short statement to make, but confer there with spokesman for Senator Kennedy, with the President, with the Vice President, and with other political leaders before making any other, taking any other political action of any kind.
Senator, you're going back to Washington this afternoon?
I expect I'll go back sometime today.
How soon do you expect to converse with the President?
I haven't talked to the President. I've been in touch, yes, we've been in touch with Mr. Salinger, Mr. Goodwin, and others, and waiting their call really as to whether I should attempt to see Senator Ted Kennedy or Mrs. Kennedy, but they assure us they're resting very now after a long night's vigil, and what I do will depend upon their request or their advice.
But your people have been in touch with the Kennedys at the hospital?
Yes, we've been talking to Pierre Salinger and to Dick Goodwin and I think one or two others, that's right.
Well, Senator, you've just said again that the nation shares a part of the guilt in this. What does the nation do? This is the third assassination or attempted assassination we've seen in just a few years.
Well, I think that it's a very complicated sort of thing. It's not just a political problem, but there are some things that we can do, I think, in politics that we haven't done, some things we can do about the process of campaigning, which I think what we really have got to do is begin to give somewhat more rational control to the rational attention to the problems of America. We proceed as though we were still a pioneer country, and we're not. It's become a rather complicated, sophisticated civilization, and few people, or not enough people at least, respond to that reality.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. From the Beverly Hilton Hotel campaign headquarters for Senator McCarthy in Beverly Hills, California, Stu Allen.
There they go, they go into the windows.
as you all know, no words can really fully convey the feeling that I have towards the Kennedy family in this time of their particular tragedy, or the feeling that one must have for the nation in the face of this tragedy, this new tragedy. It's not enough, in my judgment, to say that this is the act of one deranged man. If that is the case, the nation, I think, bears too great a burden of guilt really of a kind of neglect which has allowed the disposition of violence to grow here in our own land, and are the reflection of violence which we have visited upon the rest of the world, or at least upon a part of the world. All of us must keep vigil with the nation in prayer and hope that Senator Kennedy will recover. Meanwhile, I'm suspending indefinitely all political activities.
It seems incredible that another such profound tragedy would strike the Kennedy family, which has suffered so much from violence already. We as a people must look deep into our hearts and ask what we are. We must restore reason and order to our lives. We must understand that neither justice nor order is possible unless we have both. Tragedy through violence would strike this great country of ours. Bob Kennedy served in this office, in this room, with great distinction. He served justice, and he served all of the people of this nation. I was privileged to work with him the days and years that he was here, and can only pray, as I know all of our people are praying, that he will have a full and speedy recovery. Our vast strength to instilling in the heart of every American a very deep respect for the rights of everyone. And we will weather this as we have weathered other storms.
Noi non possiamo tacere parlando di questi gruppi di lingua inglese. Il dolore che ci ha recato la notizia arrivata testé dell'attentato perpetrato contro Robert Kennedy a Los Angeles, ferendo la faccia e l'anca, e si trova adesso in grave condizione. Narrate the 1900th anniversary of the martyrdom of St. Peter and Paul is coming to the end. Let us hope that it has assisted us all to know our faith better, to try to make it ever stronger, and that our faith is indeed the victory which overcomes the world. What is the use of faith? It is contrary to the usual development of the intellectual order. It seems to be an obstacle in order of action. It is accused of being a refuge for the weak. But by experience and reflection, you will understand that faith stimulates the intellect, gives impulse to charitable action, and is a virtue of the strong, to whom it reveals the meaning of life. What then is the use of faith? Its use is to save our souls for all eternity. We pray for you that your faith may be strong, and toward of you we lovingly impart our apostolic blessing. Esprimiamo vivamente questo tentato, questo delitto, esprimiamo voti per la persona stata colpita. Vorremmo che l'indignazione che percorre il mondo per questo fatto deplorevolissimo succedesse por parte comune di bandire da noi i metodi della violenza, del dissenso, della lotta e del delitto. With profound sorrow, we have just learned that an attempt has been made on the life of Senator Robert Kennedy, who was received the last sacraments of the Church and lies in critical condition. We deplore this new manifestation of violence and terror, and we pray for the life, health of this young man who has offered himself to the public service of his country.
Heiliger Vater, für die heutige Audienz sind neben Ihnen eingeladen eine Gruppe von Priestern aus Reihen aus den internationalen. Eine Gruppe von Akademikern des Kreises Obermain.
I can't believe it. you think something like this could ever happen in the United States?
I think a lot of violence could happen. But you're really kidding, aren't you? I can't say anything.
Well, if you...
No, I think it's a very violent society, and that's why there has to really be some drastic changes in our total society. But I can't believe what you're telling me. Is he dead or?
No, he's seriously injured. He's seriously wounded and in the operating room at this moment.
Well, forgive me. I can't really talk anymore.
Thank you.
I'm actually coming down here today for a draft resistor, which is an interesting comment, I think, on the whole.
Is that right?
Yeah. What do you think about it?
I think it's terrible. What's going on about the shooting and this things like that? It's another thing. Well, all the countries seem to be doing the same thing. The people are just getting wild and vicious. And not only one country, European countries, Asian countries, everybody's doing the same thing. I think it's just they're getting in this rut where man fights man and that's it, like dog eat dog and all that. It seems that way in this new era. It must be. Instead of being peaceful, I think the people are being peaceful. They say that, but then they turn around and they do these vicious things anyway. Okay.
You've heard about Bobby Kennedy's being shot.
Yes, I have.
What is your reaction to it?
Well, I think it was a terrible thing. I think we have enough violence going on the other side, without a thing like this. And after all, the president's death only a few years or so ago, having a thing like this happen now, I think it's terrible.
What's happening to our country?
Well, I don't know. I think everything is upside down.
What was your immediate reaction to hearing the news?
Well, I was just shocked. I don't know. I just felt shocked about it. So, felt shocked.
What did you think about Senator Kennedy being shot?
Find that's a very sad thing, and that yes, he's a young man. They need young blood in the government and every place to run the country. You have too many old people sitting around that's been doing one job too long and just sitting. And they just got accustomed to just sitting around. That's all. And that's all they're doing, they're just sitting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very quickly? All right, very quickly. What was your reaction to Senator Kennedy being shot?
It was just terrible. I woke up this morning and turned on the radio as usual, and when I heard that noise, I just couldn't believe it. It was a terrible thing.
Okay, thank you very much. What was your reaction to Senator Kennedy's shooting?
Oh, God, I almost died because, that happened to the brother, too. That family has bad luck. This is terrible.
How did you learn about it?
Well, a woman rang my bell this morning to tell me, did I hear the news about Kennedy being shot? I didn't because I didn't have the radio on yet. Oh, that's all I had to hear.
What about the country?
Oh, I think everything's all mixed up. Don't you? God.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. What was your reaction to last night's shooting?
Well, I was horrified, first of all. And then I began to think about the event as an indication of certain tendencies in American life today. And I began to realize that... Okay.
What was your reaction and how did you learn about the shooting?
He may have made a very good president. Who knows? I mean, that's remained to be seen. But as I said, you don't have to shoot a man because you don't like him.
What about all the past events that have happened of this nature that just recently?
It seems to me like a pattern that look as if any time you're doing something for poor people or something, you're shot.
Was he your candidate?
Well, I won't say.
What is your reaction to the shooting?
It's a very sad thing. I heard it last night at 3 o'clock when I was working in a pizza place here. It hurt me very deep because it's a shame to see a man like that go. Besides that, it's very beautiful to the family. They listen to people. Two great men in the last 5 years. This is kind of things like this. I don't know. I don't know whether rich people should realize that you can't fight with bullets, settle things like that. The man was, according to the radio things he was doing, just come up there and say thanks to the people. Besides that, hurting other people too. It's bad. I mean, I don't know what to say. I can't say anymore. I'm hurt, and I'm pretty sure most of the American people are.
You want to tilt down the paper?
I did, but it was...
I'm going to ask you the same question.
Okay, it's rolling.
What do you think is becoming of this country?
It's a laugh. It's a laughing matter. It's going to be a dividing country. It's going to be divided, honestly. I'm afraid that we're going to have a military dictatorship over here. The way things are going. Okay.
How did you feel about the Kennedys personally?
I thought it was a great man. Both of them. Good man. For the country, for the people. Matter of fact, for the world.
Did you know them?
Yes, I had the pleasure of meeting, God bless his soul, John. Upstairs, I was working in the terminal. My friend and I will serve them. I had the pleasure of serving him chicken rice soup in the coffee. My friend had a picture, matter of fact, taken with him. And
the senator?
And the senator, I had the pleasure of shaking his hand over here. It was a thrill, believe me. Believe me, it's something that I can remember the rest of my life.
What is your reaction?
I think it was a terrible tragedy that something like this would happen to him, because he was a very good man, and I think he was doing everything he could possibly do for the country himself. It's going to be a hard thing to say because he's knocked out of the election now, and well, that's about it, I think I can say. Thank you.
I'll ask you the question. What is your reaction? What was your reaction to the shooting?
Well, I was watching television, and all at once I heard, and it really shocked me. I didn't think that something like this would happen again in the United States.
What about all the events that have happened recently? What has your reaction been to them? Martin Luther King, John Kennedy.
Well, it's following one pattern after another. There's some disorder someplace along the line. I mean, there has to be some adjustment made someplace. I mean, it's just getting out of hand now.
Okay, let's crack.
I think it's awful. I can't understand what's happening to this country. You get up in the morning and you hear things like this. You can't run for president. You can't walk the streets. You might as well barricade yourself.
What do you think is with the country?
I really don't know. I'm starting to lose faith, I think. I just can't believe that we live in a country of this type that would do such a thing.
Unless something is done very quickly to deal with various problems, from racism to the problems in the city to the Vietnam War, that this kind of thing is going to continue to happen. It's anybody looking at American history for the past 5 years can begin to see this as a pattern. It's not the exception anymore, and I think that that's what we've got to begin to realize.
Well, as I woke this morning, about to come to work, I heard the radio. I always turn the radio in the morning, and my wife even woke her up. It kind of startled me quite a bit to say that something about Kennedy. So I stopped in my tracks and they said he'd been shot. I says, oh no, it can't be. I don't know what this world is coming to. After all, if you don't like a man, you don't have to shoot him because you don't like him.
Arthur Arundel, you are both a neighbor, just a couple of houses away, and Virginia State campaign manager for Senator Kennedy's campaign. What was your reaction to this event?
Well, it's still one of disbelief, of course, for everybody in this country and for those of us in Virginia. We still, this morning, wish we could wake up from this nightmare that the country and the world is beset by today.
know? How were they told?
I don't know.
Yes, you can carry.
Just talk a little louder because there's quite a bit of noise in here.
Okay. You will get something like this.
Yes.
And you take it from your ballot and put it in this machine. Like this, and make sure it's all the way down. Okay?
Yes, I.
And this is your voting book. And you will turn it on, and this has a needle in it.
Has a needle? Yes.
And you find your candidate, and you poke it in there.
Like the third, yeah.
And then you vote all the way down. Okay?
Right.
And you keep going like this. All the way down. And then you pull this out.
Pull it out and put it in.
And you put it back in here. Yes. See? And then you take it back and they will tear this off and give it to you.
All right.
But if you make a mistake, bring it back and we'll give you another ballot. Okay?
Yes.
Simple?
Yes. I know exactly how to do it. This takes I would like that.
Yeah.
You actually want me to pretend I'm talking? Yes, we'd be happy to arrange for a driver to come and get you and take you to your polling place. Yes, if you'll just give me the address, I'll be happy to take care of it for you. Thank you, and what time would you like someone to pick you up? All right, fine. Thank you.
You're in the picture.
One day in San Diego.
Voting machine starts when they're pasting the precinct. Isn't that great?
Are they getting it now?
I don't know.
Harry Harris, please come to the switchboard. Harry Harris, you come back here, you want Harry Harris. Harry Harris.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Y'all need some literature. Go out and take some literature and take it. You need not write that in here. You need literature.
I got one.
Okay, just down the streets. That's what we're doing now. Okay.
Sacramento now.
This one's a jubilant.
Okay. Okay, would you call her and tell her to go to Pico?
This one is going to give you some. This one, the baby said you have to call her in the morning.
Where
if
do you
want
want her at?
I don't care.
Can I help you?
We're closing.
Yeah, I was on television. You're on television now. Yeah. You'll go and you bring your, no, I'm serious. You'll bring your, I'll wear a scarf. Wear a scarf for something. What time are you going down there? 7:30. I don't know. Well, you came in at the right time. You'll be at the lobby at 7:30.
Do I have to, who's going to go kissing with me? What time? Can I have the car here?
Somebody will be here tomorrow.
What time? Can I have the car?
Tomorrow night I'll pick her up at 7:30.
I can't go on foot.
Just a moment. Yes, I got your number. I got your office number, but I don't have your office number. Give me that, please. 9144. Right, that's what I got. Okay, all right.
Pick up that phone in the hotel.
I did. I had 12 people.
Oh, see, that's the whole thing.
We have 3 offices. Mr. Thursfield. One on Eastern Avenue and one on South Avenue. One on Mechanic. Would you like the address?
What? I got no way to move.
Close up. You ready? Are you going? Are you rolling? All right, what is your name?
Jeannie Martell.
Jeannie, you were watching when Senator Kennedy made his victory statement. Tell me how you felt then, and then how you felt when you heard and saw the subsequent developments.
Well, we were watching the television, as you said, and we felt very good because we felt that we had accomplished something that we all here at Kennedy headquarters and everywhere else had worked very hard for. And I felt that since he'd won in South Dakota and he won in California, that we were really, really feeling victorious that night because we'd really done something and done it very well. And then all of a sudden you could see a room, and in that room you saw somebody saying, "We're begging everybody to get out of the room." And then, first I thought, what happened? They switched some movie on or something, and then I thought, that's Kennedy headquarters. And then I thought maybe that the people there were, too crowded, so they wanted to clear the room. But then they said that Robert Kennedy had been shot. And my first reaction was they couldn't do it again, not to another Kennedy. And then I felt very hurt that a man who tried to do so much for his country should be shot down, and that this country is so violent at times as to shoot a man down who would try to do so much. And then suddenly California wasn't important anymore, and him being president just didn't seem to rate as much as it had 5 minutes before, and that the most important thing was that he was alive and well, and that we want him back like he was.
Are you optimistic now as you listen to these reports?
I feel that if God is with the senator, he'll pull through. I feel very strongly about that, and the only thing anyone can do is pray.
Do you think that the campaign will go on here as long as he shows some chance of recovery?
Yes, I do. I believe we've all worked very hard in the past, and we'll all continue to work very hard in the future for him. And if he's unable to attend certain rallies or things, we'll just have to make up for it. And as long as there's hope, we'll always push forward like he'd want us to.
What is your name?
Ann Stambo.
Ann?
Stambo.
Ann, when did you first find out about the events of last night?
I found out very early this morning. A friend of mine who had been here with me quite late last night watching the returns, we had gone home, and she got up quite early and called me around 7 o'clock and told me of the news.
All right, let me ask you this. When you went to bed last night, you knew or felt that Mr. Kennedy had won in California. Tell me about your feelings then, and then your feelings this morning when you found out what had happened.
Well, of course, last night we were all exuberant. We've all been working hard. We were here, the excitement. He had won. We went home. I turned it on. I watched it until I went to sleep. It was clear that he had won. This morning, it was a compounded agony, I guess, again, of the assassination of our president and Martin Luther King, and now this. And it's more than Senator Kennedy. It's a frightening thing, this man that so many of us believe in, that this can happen in this country. I think there are going to be many repercussions that right now we can't face, but because we're also concerned about the senator and praying for him as an individual. But when he does recover, I think we are really going to realize what a terrible thing has happened.
Okay, next girl. Close up on her. Tell me when you're ready. What is your name?
Laura Stevenson.
Laura, tell me your feelings last night when you knew that he'd won, and then when you found out what had happened.
Well, obviously, I was really thrilled last night. I thought he was only going to win by 1 or 2%, and it looked, when I went to bed last night, there was going to be a much larger percentage than that. Then I got woken up this morning by about 7:30, and I listened to the news. And the first thing I heard was that somebody had been shot. And I think unconsciously I knew it was Kennedy, but I couldn't believe it. I mean, it just seemed like a complete nightmare. I mean, that this could happen again, and that it just seemed, that the whole world was sort of coming to pieces, and it keeps happening over and over again here. And I think it was also compounded by the fact that I was deeply upset about the Andy Warhol killing or shooting. I mean, not so much that I knew him, but I know all those people involved who live in the Chelsea Hotel. And it just seemed like, again, something horrible is happening, and it's happening here in America. Something very sick about our society. It keeps over and over again. We've got to do something about gun control. I mean, something has to be done. And I don't think having Secret Servicemen around the candidates is going to help. I think that the whole morality of this country has got to change.
What can change it?
I'm not really sure about that. I don't think what's happening up at Columbia, I don't think complete anarchy is certainly going to help. I think the great hope for this country was that if we could have gotten a Kennedy elected, or even a McCarthy, somebody who really believed in the young people of this country and really was for change and was for some progressive legislation, I think we might have had a chance. And now I don't know what's going to happen.
You've lost all hope that Mr. Kennedy will survive this?
Well, I'm not sure. It's hard to tell by the news reports, but I spoke to somebody early this morning who's in medical school, It's a very delicate operation, and there's a large percentage, a chance that he may survive, but he may turn out to be a complete vegetable. And in that case, what are we going to do? Who are we going to turn to? I'm really not sure.
You don't think it's possible to turn to Eugene McCarthy?
Yes, I suppose it is at this point, but I don't. Maybe things will change. At the moment, Humphrey has so much money, it's unbelievable. He has so much backing. He has all the power politics behind him. I don't think anybody can stop Humphrey. I think Kennedy had a chance, and that chance seems to be slowly fading.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. May be on within a couple of hours. Okay. In glum silence, the Kennedy workers waited today for the medical diagnosis from Los Angeles. As they waited, they watched as mercilessly. In glum silence, the Kennedy workers waited for the results of the. In glum silence, the Kennedy workers waited for the results of the medical diagnosis. While they waited in silence, television played mercilessly again and again the films of last night's tragic event. Some of those who watched here today had been watching when Senator Kennedy made his victory speech and then what came after. In glum silence, Kennedy workers waited for the report on the medical diagnosis. While they waited, they watched as mercilessly the film of last night's tragedy played again and again on television. Some of them had been watching Senator Kennedy's victory speech last night and what came afterwards. Cut. Yesterday, with pictures of a healthy candidate all around, this New York office was a frenzy of activity. Workers were making plans for a final blitz of campaigning aimed at electing Kennedy delegates in New York's June 18th election. Today, all is still, but New York Kennedy for President Chairman Bill Walton says that will change. At one point, a report that Senator Kennedy might not have suffered extensive brain damage brought hearty applause from the workers. But the mood became solemn again with a less optimistic statement, giving the senator a 50-50 chance of survival. Yesterday, the Kennedy California primary victory gave the New York campaign a real push forward. Now it is stalled, and only word that Senator Kennedy is recovering will get the momentum going again. David Snell, ABC News at Kennedy headquarters in New York. Once more. Just, can I do one more take on it? Excuse me. Okay. Yesterday's California primary victory gave the New York campaign a real push forward. Today, despite a show of optimism, it is stalled, and only word that Senator Kennedy is recovering will restore the lost momentum. This is David Snell at Kennedy headquarters in New York. I'd like to, but they're rolling. I'm just doing it. You're welcome to sit in on it or to join in on it. I don't care. Go ahead. What is the feeling here now as a result of the announcement we've just heard?
The important thing, of course, is for Senator Kennedy to get well. And while he's getting well, we will all campaign on his behalf with redoubled vigor. We know he would want us to, and we know that we will have enormous support from the people that believe in the same things that Senator Kennedy believes in.
You don't think that his people will be so disheartened by this that it will be the end to the campaign?
He has never been disheartened, and neither will we be.
You're confident now that the reports from Los Angeles are going to prove that Mr. Kennedy will be back and be able to function as president if he gets the nomination?
It's much too soon to discuss his physical condition. We're dependent on bulletins from the West Coast. We can only discuss our political plans here, and they are to redouble our efforts in Senator Kennedy's behalf all through the state of New York.
Can you tell me what the situation was like here last night, immediately before and then when the shooting was announced?
No, I wasn't here. I watched the returns until about 1:30 here and then went home, so I didn't see. But there weren't very many people here, I think, late.
Now, let me ask you again. You've already answered this question, but as a result of the shooting of Senator Kennedy, what are your plans now?
Well, certainly we will revise certain things. His heavy schedule of campaigning that we'd laid out for 2 weeks all over the state of New York naturally will not be carried out. But I know that there were many people who will take his place and express his views and bring his case to the voters of New York.
Now, the senator is behind in the polls and from every indication had an uphill fight for the nomination. Do you think that he can get the nomination if he is not able to fight for it in the way he's been doing?
No one could predict, but we will certainly try.
You rolling? All right, the man we just talked to is Bill Walton, W-A-L-T-O-N, who is New York campaign chairman for the Kennedy for President Committee.
You got that radio on? He could come on with all right, said Dr. Albert Lindenhoff, first undergraduate in medical school. Now, mind you, Dr. Lindenhoff was not there at the operation, but he is in the body on such operation. He said it was perfectly normal for brain surgery to last several hours, and that the duration of Kennedy staying in the operating room carries no longer than 30. It takes a little more perhaps.
I only have 60 people.
The police car, so the first place was to get out and read. There's safety to under the code orders.
Absolutely tragic, and I can hardly believe it's happened twice. It's a sad state of affairs. It's a terrible world we're living in. Everybody's sorry. It's a terrible shock. And twice in one family. Okay, thank you very much.
It seems awful that people have such hate in their hearts, have to do such a thing.
What do you think causes it?
It's quite incredible that anybody, who we don't know personally can have this effect on so many people.
What do you think causes this?
How can you feel? But suddenly, well, one is just struck down, really, by the whole thing.
The most dreadful thing we've ever heard of, and I'm sure I'm speaking for all the country. It's really harrowing.
What do you think causes this kind of... Wicked. Why do you think that sort of thing happens?
Well, I haven't got a clue. I ain't got a clue. I reckon they're a bit balmy over there. Must be.
That's everybody. We sort of feel we're a part of the American politics nowadays. With television and everything. It comes sort of hits you on.
For America and for the whole world, probably.
Why do you think that sort of violence occurs?
Why? I don't think there's any reason. I think it's a mass hysteria, probably. There's a great deal of hysterical people in America. It seems.
Do you think it's especially American problem?
It would seem to be. It would seem to me that the heat that seems to be generated in election time leads to a lot of people getting worked up. And this result...
And people in this country feel it very deeply.
Why do you think that violence occurs in America like this?
Partly due to the firearms law, partly due to the fact that it's still an unstable society, and that they regard material benefits as the most important thing in life, and everybody fights everybody else to get what they can. I think they want to realise there are more important things in life than getting rich quick.
Very shocked and very horrified, but I wasn't very surprised at another occurrence of violence in the American political scene.
Why not?
Nothing else. Just how terribly dreadful and how often what a useless waste.
Why do you think this sort of
Disgusting, yeah. I was really surprised. It's the last thing I expected because, well, I mean, there's a lot more people I dislike, but nobody deserves to be assassinated. You know, it's disgusting. I mean, with their history, you know, when they were in the Wild West, I think.
American history, you mean?
Yeah, you know, violence seems to be. They're bred up on violence. They seem to be carrying on with violence now. You know, they seem to. Like that sort of.
We're getting the idea now that guns should be banned in America, which is quite true. It should be.
You think they're too easy to get in America?
Nothing that ever happened. It's a ghastly thing, and we feel very sorry for you over here, I think.
What do you think causes this kind
It was really shock.
Why do you think that kind of violence occurs?
I don't know what to think about. Only I know that everybody in Poland loves him. I'm sorry, I can't.
Thank you very much. I think it's tragic, absolutely tragic, and I can hardly believe it's happened twice. It's a sad state of affairs. It's a terrible world we're living in. I think everybody's sorry. It's a terrible shock. And twice in one family.
I think it's dreadful. It seems awful that people have such hate in their hearts, have to do such a thing.
We're stunned. It's quite incredible that anybody, who we don't know personally can have this effect on so many people.
Well, how can you feel? But suddenly, one is just struck dumb, really, by the whole thing.
We think it's the most dreadful thing we've ever heard of, and I'm sure I'm speaking for all the country. It's really harrowing.
Wicked, I reckon. Wicked.
Why do you think that sort of thing happens?
Oh, I haven't got a clue. I ain't got a clue. I reckon they're a bit balmy over there. Must be.
Terrible shock, to everybody. We sort of feel we're a part of the American politics nowadays, with television and everything.
I think it's a great tragedy for America and for the whole world, probably.
Why do you think that sort of violence occurs?
Why? I don't think there's any reason. I think it's a mass hysteria, probably. There's a great deal of hysterical people in America, it seems.
Do you think it's especially American problem?
It would seem to be. It would seem to me that the heat that seems to be generated in election time leads to a lot of people getting worked up.
It's a terrible tragedy, and people in this country feel it very deeply.
Why do you think that violence occurs in America like this?
Partly due to the firearms law, partly due to the fact that it's still an unstable society, and that they regard material benefits as the most important thing in life, and everybody fights really else to get what they can. I think they want to realise there are more important things in life than getting rich quick.
Well, I was very shocked and very horrified, but I wasn't very surprised at another occurrence of violence in the American political scene.
It was absolute shock. Nothing else. Just how terribly dreadful and how often what a useless waste.
Well, I thought it was really disgusting. You know, I was really surprised. It's the last thing I expected because, well, I mean, there's a lot more people I dislike, but nobody deserves to be assassinated. You know, it's disgusting. And it comes back from their history, when they were in the Wild West, I think.
American history, you mean?
Yeah, violence seems to be. They're bred up on violence, and they seem to be carrying on with violence now.
A lot of people are getting the idea now that guns should be banned in America, which is quite true. It should be.
I think it's the most terrible thing that ever happened. It's a ghastly thing, and we feel very sorry for you over here, I think.
For me, it was really shock.
Why do you think that kind of violence occurs?
I don't know what to think about. Only I know that everybody in Poland loves him. I'm sorry, I can't.
Thank you very much.
The death of Senator Kennedy has set off a new wave of shock and grief here in Britain. At the American Embassy in Grosvenor Square, there was a steady stream of mourners who came to sign a book of remembrance. Robert Kennedy was not quite the hero in Britain that his brother, President Kennedy, had been, but the family has been well known and well reported since the days before World War II, when their father, Joseph Kennedy, was American ambassador to Britain. A sense of shared loss is deeply felt in Britain. The news of the death stunned Britain and dominated the public's attention. Queen Elizabeth sent a personal message of sympathy to the senator's widow. Prime Minister Wilson expressed his horror and sorrow. And the Archbishop of Canterbury said he was grieved beyond words. The average Briton shared their distress, but there is a growing feeling of anger here in London that the U.S. has not yet adopted tighter laws on the control and sale of guns. Whatever their other views about the causes of violence, most British commentators, and ordinary people as well, have been calling on the U.S. to follow Britain in making guns harder to get. The new Kennedy tragedy has dramatized their concern. Louis Rukeyser, ABC, London. Britain shared their distress, but there is a growing feeling of anger here in London that the U.S. has not yet adopted tighter laws on the control and sale of guns. Whatever their other views about the causes of violence, most British commentators, and ordinary people as well, have been calling on the U.S. to follow Britain in making guns harder to get. The new Kennedy tragedy has dramatized their concern. Louis Rukeyser, ABC, London.
Violence begets violence. I mean, here one knows very little about the young man who's done this thing, but obviously he is obsessed by hate, which is born out of hate.
Do you think it could happen here in Britain?
I think that's irrelevant, really. The fact is we want to make sure that it cannot happen in America. I think this really is what one wants to do. And perhaps here what should be America's greatest strength is now its weakness, really. And that's the contribution that all races and creeds should make to America and its culture, as they did in this country, really, you know, in the 19th century, when we had the various refugees who came from Eastern Europe, particularly from the pogroms, who made a terrific contribution here.
Thank you very much.
You can cut that off.
From the American Broadcasting Company, and we're just asking people what their reaction is to the death of Senator Kennedy.
We think it...
Sorry. You're an American, though, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Never mind. Excuse me, sir. We're from the American Broadcasting Company, and we're asking people what their reaction was to the death of Senator Kennedy.
Well, I think it's a great shame. I mean, it looks as if he could take over from Johnson quite well, you know. Do the job properly if he got in, you know, if he was nominated. So it's a real shame, really.
Why do you think this sort of violence occurs?
The guns are so easy, and it comes back from...
We're from the American Broadcasting Company. Are you an American?
No, I'm not American.
That's all right, thank you.
I'm terrified.
We're from the American Broadcasting Company. We're just asking people for their reaction to the death of Senator Kennedy.
Well, it's a terrible shock.
Why do you think that sort of violence occurs?
Well, I don't really know if it starts in the home
people bringing up their children or not. But to me, it's just a complete disaster.
Did you know a lot about Senator Kennedy?
Not really. I couldn't comment on his personal life or anything like that. But with the assassination of the late President Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, then of course one takes more of a personal interest in it now.
Thank you. Excuse me, ma'am. We're from the American Broadcasting Company. Excuse me, sir. We're from the American Broadcasting Company. We just wanted to get your reaction to the death of Senator Kennedy.
I think it's a great tragedy.
A reaction to the death of Senator Kennedy.
Well, I think it's dreadful. There have been assassinations before. Martin Luther King wasn't very long ago.
Violence.
No idea. I just feel that it's really dreadful. And it's so sad to think that people have to build up hate in their hearts to do such a thing.
Thank you very much. Broadcasting Company, and we're just asking people for their reactions to the shooting and the death of Senator Kennedy.
Was stunned.
Fine. What was your reaction?
But I was
To violence.
boredom, I think. I can't think of any other reason for it. I don't know. I haven't really sort of studied it, and we don't come into contact with it so much over here.
Why do you think there's more of it in America?
That I don't know either. It could be you've got so many different races living so close together. I don't know.
Thank you
very much.
We're American Broadcasting Company, and we're,
I see.
we're just asking people how they felt about the death of Senator Kennedy.
Well,
Sorry.
if I may say so, I
Sorry,
personally
if you just would wait till... Sorry.
I feel it very deeply, and I was in tears. I'm terribly upset to allow such a crime to be committed and to destroy such an important man. Great shame.
Thank you very much.
I was very sorry for him. Very sorry for the whole family.
What violence?
But this seems to me to have been premeditated. That it was an order, he was told to do it. But how or why, one can't imagine.
Who do you think gave those orders?
I don't think I'm clever enough to answer that question, but we really all are dreadfully distressed.
Thank you. Just asking people their reactions to the death of Senator Kennedy. Could you just give us a couple of
I'm
words?
shocked.
I'm sorry. We're from the American Broadcasting Company, and we're asking people how they feel about the death of Senator Kennedy.
Wicked, all that.
Of his brother as well, it must be terrific hardship on the family. You know. Can't really say much more.
Excuse me, miss. What was your reaction to the senator's shooting?
For me.
Excuse me, sir. We're from the American Broadcasting Company, and we're asking people their reactions to the death of Senator Kennedy.
Just simply horrified about it, and sickened too. I am an American myself, and it just seems incredible that in this supposedly enlightened age that we do this sort of thing to people who are courageous enough to lead.
Thank you so much.
Okay, running.
You can hold it. Sorry, what was your reaction to the death of the senator?
Oh, I thought it was really very sorry.
I'm asking people how they feel about the death of Senator Kennedy.
Well, I feel very upset about it all. And I think that they should definitely do something to stop these people holding the guns and so forth.
What do you think should be done?
Well, make an order to make it illegal for them to obtain this kind of thing.
Thank you very much, Senator Kennedy.
Oh, definitely, yeah, it's much too easy to get. The idea of being able to acquire a gun through posts is atrocious, really. It should never be allowed.
Thank you. Which side do you want me to... Excuse me, sir. Would you give us your reaction to the death of Senator Kennedy?
I think it's the most terrible...
Thank you. Strung the murderer up there and then. I think
these people, like this murderer,
you'd be in favor of calmer election campaigns.
I would think so, yes. It seems that it happens here in a calmer way, and therefore we don't seem to have this terrible problem of politicians just getting shot at.
Thank you very much. Excuse me, sir, we have your comment to the
Yes,
death
I think
of Senator Kennedy?
it's a terrible tragedy.
Very good. Excuse me, sir. I'm really anxious to know what we've got, honestly. Excuse me, sir. What was your reaction to the death of Senator Kennedy?
Well, it was a surprise to everybody, I suppose. But the main thing was the outcome of the violence of it. A lot of people...
Your doorstep these days, isn't it?
So you felt that it was someone you knew well?
Oh, very well, yes. We see him, I should imagine, once a week on television. And he seemed, you know, quite a nice fellow.
Thank you very much. Excuse me, ma'am. We're from the American Broadcasting Company. What was your reaction to the death of Senator Kennedy?
Oh, disaster.
Occurs.
I really don't know. I haven't been to America, but it just seems the most stupid thing. So everyone can get guns. In England, if you want to kill someone, you're going to have to wait a hell of a long time to get a gun to kill them. Therefore, not so many people get killed in such a way.
You prefer to see a stricter gun law in America?
Yes, much stricter. Absolutely necessary.
Thank you. So you are terrified?
Terrified when I heard yesterday because I went just shopping and they asked me if I heard the news and I didn't because I was so busy. And when at 2 o'clock, 2:30, I heard about it, I was so sorry for him and for the whole family. Well, I think now, because he's dead, it's better that he died, because if he was mentally handicapped or something like that, it would have been terrible for him and his family and the children, isn't it?
Thank you very much. Reactions to the death of Senator Kennedy?
I think it's tragic.
The average Briton shared their distress, but there is a growing feeling of anger here in Britain. I'm sorry, I'll have to do it again. The average Briton shared their distress. The average Briton shared their distress, but there is a growing feeling of anger here in London that the U.S. has not yet adopted... I'm sorry.
Okay, running.
The average Briton shared their distress, but there is a growing feeling of anger here in London that the U.S. has not yet adopted tighter laws on the control and sale of guns. Whatever their other views about the causes of violence, most British commentators, and ordinary people as well, have been calling on the U.S. to follow Britain in making guns harder to get. The new Kennedy tragedy has dramatized their concern. Louis Rukeyser, ABC, London.
Wild track. Wait for some more buses. Doesn't matter, that's all right.
The death of Senator Kennedy has set off a new wave of shock and grief here in Britain. At the American Embassy in Grosvenor Square, there was a steady stream of mourners who came to sign a book of remembrance. Robert Kennedy was not quite the hero in Britain that his brother, President Kennedy, had been, but the family has been well known and reported since the days before World War II, when their father, Joseph Kennedy, was American ambassador to Britain. A sense of shared loss is deeply felt in Britain. The Stars and Stripes hung at half-mast over the embassy and was joined by many Union Jacks elsewhere in London. The news of the death stunned Britain and dominated the public's attention. Queen Elizabeth sent a personal message of sympathy to the senator's widow. Prime Minister Wilson expressed his horror and sorrow. and the Archbishop of Canterbury said he was grieved beyond words. The average violence in America.
Well, I've never been there, so I can't give you any sort of objective judgment, really.
Thank you.
Right.
The death of Senator Kennedy has set off a new wave of shock and grief here in Britain. At the American Embassy in Grosvenor Square, there was a steady stream of mourners who came to sign a book of remembrance. Robert Kennedy was not quite the hero in Britain that his brother, President Kennedy, had been, but the family has been well known and well reported since the days before World War II, when their father, Joseph Kennedy, was American ambassador to Britain. A sense of shared loss is deeply felt in Britain. The Stars and Stripes hung at half-mast over the embassy and was joined by many Union Jacks elsewhere in London. The news of the death stunned Britain and dominated the public's attention. Queen Elizabeth sent a personal message of sympathy to the senator's widow. Prime Minister Wilson expressed his horror and sorrow, and the Archbishop of Canterbury said he was grieved beyond words.
Running. You're running now.
You see Kennedy dead?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way to do it. Maybe if we have you holding up that paper with the headline, then I ask you how you... Just wait 1 second. Would you hold can you hold the paper so we can see it as well?
Yes.
What was your reaction?
It was absolute
All what can say first, I leave this matter to God and let God figure it out and let him to do the way he wants. And in the meantime, I pray to God to put the mercy in the judge, in the hearts of the judge in Los Angeles. A great man like Senator Kennedy, he should control himself and control his tongue when he gives speeches like that, and to be a more peaceful man. And suppose there is a trouble in the Middle East between the Jews and Arab, a great man like this, and especially he was expecting to be the President of the United States, he should have a balance and to speak peaceful between both.
Do you feel that your son will be fairly judged?
To be justice and to think about it a little deeply, and not only to say that Sirhan, he is a modern. To think about something else, or to think about the things which push Sirhan to do this.
Sirhan's father interview. Roll of one at 24 frames per second.
Yeah, then
All right. Yes.
Slate.
Take one. Mr. Sirhan, you've had some time to think.
Go ahead. Go.
You've had some time to think now. What do you feel, in your opinion, are the underlying causes of Senator Kennedy's death?
Well, I still say that I'm very sorry for the death of Senator Kennedy, because we have nothing against him. He was a good man, he was a nice man. But in the meantime, I felt very sorry about my son. And in the beginning, when I hear this news, I get mad at my son, why he did this. Because it is very bad for both. Senator Kennedy, that was in the beginning. I thought Senator Kennedy may die and my son will go to jail or hanged up or go to the electric chair. Anyhow, he was in a very big trouble. But I was very, very mad about my son, how he do such things, you know. But lately, I start reading the paper, I start listening to the news. In the beginning, I used to have no idea why my son did this, if he did it. But lately, I start reading the papers, and hear in the news from all over the world. I read in the paper that Senator Kennedy, when he was in Los Angeles the first time and the second time, in his speech he insulted the Arab. So now I have this idea. My son Sirhan, he has been seeing many things dangerous in the quarter where we used to live, 1948 and after 1948. He have seen, many bumps, and sometimes he get injured. Sometimes he used to run away home when the Jews used to throw bombs in the street and the houses anywhere. Sometimes, he used to come crying and feeling so bad, feeling so nervous. And this happened, to him maybe 10, 15, or 30 times. Because the Jews, they were not attacking, heavy attack. They use every day, every 2-3 days, every 5 days, and so on, throw. And we were living close.
We have to change in film.
Okay. Yeah.
Not yet, not yet. Slide. Slide. Take 2. First, please. Mr. Sirhan, you've had some time to think now about the tragedy in Los Angeles. What are your feelings now about the underlying causes of Senator Kennedy's death?
You see, I feel very sorry for the death of Senator Kennedy. And in the beginning, I used to have any idea about what's happened and what's going on, because America is too far from here, and I am here, and everything happened in America. So lately, after 1 day and 2 days, 3 days, I start watching the news carefully, read the papers carefully, and I was thinking deeply, why is this happened? And in the beginning, I was so mad, so nervous about my son, and I used to think why he did this terrible thing, and what pushed him to do this. As I said in the beginning, I have no idea at all. I don't know what to say. Even I said to myself and to somebody else, if he did it without any reason, and if there is easy reason, he shouldn't such things. Why? Because I grew him up in a very good education. Brought him up in he lived in a very good Christian house. His mother is a very good woman. She is very Christian, and I am too. And all my family grew us in Christianity. And Sirhan, he was very nice boy, very good boy, honest, good in school, good home. He was very satisfied. But lately, after 2-3 days, I start thinking and watching the news to see why this happened and what is pushed my son to do such a terrible thing. Well, I start reading the papers and I start watching the news. I read in the papers that Senator...
Okay, you start off again. Slide. Take 3.
I read in the papers and I heard the news from all over the world. And there was a magazine, I don't know the name of the magazine, in France. The news said that Senator Kennedy, in his speech, insulted the Arab and became to the Jewish side. He was going to back them with weapons and so on. This is what the news said, you know. So now I have an ID, and because I think too much about it and I want to find out what is the thing push my son for such terrible things. You know, during 1948 and after 1948, while we live in Jerusalem, the Jewish used, you know, to throw bombs in the quarter where we live because it was close to them. So many things I remember it happens to him when he go out, when he come, you know, he used to come crying and shouting. Sometimes he's bleeding when he hear the explosion. I remember this happened often. But I remember 4 things. You know, he used to tell it to me and repeat it to me many times, that what he saw. Once I was going to the old city. When we reached Damascus Gate, we heard something dropped. It was, you know, a strange noise. When we looked back, we saw a barrel rolling, and when it rolls about 8 or 10 yards, the barrel exploded. It was full of dynamite and maybe jalangit, you know, something like this. Anyhow, it exploded, made very, very big noise. So the boy he got shocked and he fell on the ground, and I thought he died. Then I carried him and entered the Damascus Gate inside the old city. Then I lay him down on the ground. Yeah.
Will I tell you, please, okay?
Okay.
Slide,
Take 4.
please.
I lay the boy on the ground, you know, behind the wall, and I brought him some water. He was in a very terrible situation. His face is pale and he was shaking, and he was in a terrible condition. So I stood behind him about maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. Then I asked him, "How are you, Daddy? Could you walk? Or shall I carry you?" He said, "No, Daddy, I could walk." He got up, you know, but he was walking like a drunk. So I finished my, I was going to shop, you know, buy things from the old city. On our way back, we found about 40 or 50 people laying on the ground, some of them without head, someone without legs, sometimes his stomach cut, children, women, men, and, the other, what you call the ambulance is people loading them in the ambulance and take them to the hospital. See, when he saw this blood, and he saw the children and those 40, 50 men like this, he got mad, and he was so nervous, and he asked me, "Daddy, why the Jews doing all these things? They don't know anything about Christ. They don't believe in Christ. Christ don't teach us like this. I don't know Jews why they doing all these things. Please, Daddy, cover my face. I don't want to look at them." So I take off my handkerchief and cover his face. Then we went home. And many things happened like this, to him, and he used to remind me, even when he's 13, 12 years old, he used to remind me to what happened there. And when we moved to the old city too, they used to bomb and fire on us too. Now, what I think deeply, maybe this boy, because he have seen many things like that while he's young, and he figured that something is no good. This is something killing people by bombs, this and that. I think now maybe when Senator Kennedy
Excuse me. This is the end. We have to allow.
Slide.
Take 5.
You see, he talks in his speech in Los Angeles about weapons, about airplanes, about bombs. Maybe he said that, but according to the news and the papers, he said it for sure. Maybe he wants to give the Jews, weapons and war material. And in the meantime, you see, it is written in some papers, he insulted the Arab. I think, and this is my idea now, maybe Sirhan, he remember what's happened before and what he have seen. And I think because this boy, he is very kind, he has a very extensive feeling. Maybe he said, I don't want any more trouble. I don't want to see such things because I know the dangers of bombs and so on. And Mr. Kennedy looks to me, he is a bad man. He wants to make a trouble in my country and so on, you know. Maybe this is the reason which pushed Sirhan to do this, you know. And myself, I say so. A great man like Senator Kennedy, he should control himself and control his tongue when he gives speeches like that, and to be a more peaceful man. And suppose there is a trouble in the Middle East between the Jews and Arab, a great man like this, and especially he was expecting to be the President of the United States, he should have a balance and to speak peaceful between both, not to start talking about weapons, give this and give that, insult one nation and be with other nation and so on. This is my last idea, and I don't know what's going to be discovered from now up.
Have you been in touch with Arab sources in the United States since the tragedy in Los Angeles?
Arab sources? What do you mean by
the
sources?
Arab the committee? Okay. No, I wanted to ask.
Take 6.
Since Senator Kennedy's death, have you been in touch with the Action Committee on American-Arab Relations?
Oh, no.
You've been in touch with no Arab sources?
No, never.
Do you feel, Mr. Sirhan, that your son will be judged fairly?
Well, you know, Senator Kennedy, he passed away now. And I pray to God to give him a nice place in heaven. And to President John Kennedy too, because really I used to like them very, very, very much, because they were, you know, not bad and they have good feeling, and I know much more about President John Kennedy more than Robert Kennedy. So my son now, he is in jail. All what I can say first, I leave this matter to God and let God figure it out and let him to do do it the way he wants. And in the meantime, I pray to God to put the mercy in the judge, in the hearts of the judge in Los Angeles, to be justice and to think about it a little deeply, and not only to say that Sirhan, he is a murderer. To think about something else, or to think about the things which push Sirhan to do this, and that what I mentioned to you before.
Are you going to the United States?
Well, I didn't decide yet. I didn't decide yet.
Will your son have help during his trial?
Well, up till now, I don't know. Up till now, I can't say anything.
Thank you, Mr. Sirhan.
You're welcome.
Arnold Bruner, ABC News. What's the name of this place?
Taiba.
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 Taiba. Okay. I'm sorry, we'll have to do it again.
That's okay? No, I have to. If you have another question, I have to put another row. Okay.
I think we can. You have to put another row in.
Just a second. I'm putting another row.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, wait.
Well, you have. You ready? And wait till I will say please, okay? Slate.
Take 7. Is there anything you want to add?
No, once more, please. From the top. Go.
Is there anything you want to add?
You see, I want to say this. The United States is a very, very great country, very rich country. They have everything too much. They have weapons, they have airplanes, they have all the war materials, and they produce another things too. But as the United States is a very great family and they spread all over the world, and they kneel and their power. They kneel and their power. Like airplanes, bombs, war material, and so on. But what I want to say to them, if they like to listen to me, that they should have enough justice, especially for the countries out the United States, and to be more peaceful and to be more kind and mercy. Look at how many presidents killed in America. You think there is no reason? There must be a reason for killing the presidents of the United States. And I pray to God again to bring peace for the whole nations and in the Middle East, and especially for Vietnam, because I feel so sorry to hear every day so many people killed from the American and the Vietnamese. And this is my last word to President Johnson, to think deeply, to stop the war in the Middle East and in Vietnam.
Row 2.
Tell you when to start, please.
We start with President Johnson.
Slate. Take 8. Please. Ask the question, Arnold.
Do you have anything to add?
Well, my best regards to President Johnson. And I hope he will do his best to stop the war in the Middle East and in Vietnam. If he did so, the people will behave him and like him very, very much all over the world.
Thank you, Mr. Sirhan.
You're welcome.
Arnold Bruner, ABC News, Taiba.
I will tell you when, okay?
Yeah.
Slade,
Take 9.
please.
Mr. Sirhan, you've had time to think since the tragedy in Los Angeles. What do you feel now are the underlying causes of Senator Kennedy's death?
Next question.
Do you feel that your son will be fairly judged? Do you have anything you'd wish to say to the people of the United States?
Hand over the mic to him. Don't look at me. Look at him. Here, my direction.